I think one of the biggest misconceptions in the marriage stand, for those of you standing for marriage restoration, is the fact of how long and how tedious the journey can be. Hear God give us a promise, and we just think because God said it, he's going to do it. And that is true. But there is work required from you. There is a time frame that is expected for you to endure what it is. We already start exhausting ourselves for how hard this is going to be. God, this looks impossible. I can't do this. God knows that. He gave you the promise because you're going to need him to see full manifestation. You're like Job, though he slay me, yet I trust him. It doesn't look like, thank you, Holy Spirit, that God is doing something on both sides, like with you and with your spouse. It looks like it's just all you. Sometimes it is that. And other things, it is behind the scenes. It is in the dark. It's things that God hasn't revealed to you, or you don't know what's going on the other side. God is not expecting for you to do all of this on your own. You're like, Lord, how much more do you expect me to endure? But when you know how the Lord works, there's something that there has to be a divine exchange. There's something that you're doing and the Lord meets you halfway. When I was in my stand, especially early on, there were things that I within myself said to myself. I didn't even pray this to God. I said within myself, like, if this happens, this would be the worst. I don't know how I would endure this. Everyone has a this in their situation. Well, my situation is this happened. The Lord didn't stop it from happening, although he could. He knew what would be my criteria, my drawing the line, my straw on the camel's back. Not only did God allow it, but when this took place, it didn't make me stumble like I thought it did when I was in fear of hoping it wouldn't happen. It didn't make me quit. It didn't make me give up. He allowed the worst to happen because he said that's what's going to strengthen you. So when this took place, it was more so I was receiving more, thank you, Holy Spirit, more of the Lord's grace, more of the Lord's strength, because I was weak in that area. Because when this takes place in all of you, something just came to mind, thank you, Holy Spirit, of what that thing is. Either it's already manifested or you cringe when you think about how bad it could get. I'm going to give you what you need to endure your this. When I coach my mentees, I'm telling you guys, take your calendar and rip it up. Let me put it like this. Not only did my this happen, even within myself of how long I thought was too long, God still allowed that thing to happen. I was still in it beyond the time frame that I thought I would be out by now. We would be delivered by now. Things would be restored by now. So I say all of that to say everything I didn't want to happen, God allowed it. Stop looking at the mountain like God just put the mountain in front of you and like he's just expecting you to get through it yourself. Like he's just expecting you to figure it out yourself. And that's what's draining many of you. That's what has many of you tired. That's what has many of you just ready to throw in the towel. Because you're looking at that thing, thinking that you got to do it within your own strength. How do I know God is going to restore it? How do I know God is going to do it? How do I know God is telling me to stand? At first, I did not always know that God was going to do it. I didn't. He didn't tell me. He didn't confirm it. He didn't send another prophet to let me know. But something in me, there was just a belief of, well, God, I really feel like I should stand for my marriage. I really feel like I should fight for my marriage. I kept thinking, I don't want to put all this effort in. And at the end of the day, God be like, no, that wasn't me. That was all you. But something in me wouldn't let me quit. Something in me wouldn't let me give up. Even when I looked stupid, even when I looked foolish, even when Jesus had me out here looking like Boo Boo the Fool. It's bringing tears to my eyes to think the things that he expected me to endure. And I'm like, God, I'm being faithful. I submit. I pray. I fast. How could you leave me in this? He was teaching me his heart and his character. I saw that I was seeing him from the wrong lens. He wasn't doing anything to me that he didn't allow his first and only son to go through first. He wasn't doing anything to me that he himself did not experience first. Once I began to understand the Lord's character and understand the Lord's heart, it changed my perspective about what I was in. It didn't stop what I was in. It didn't make what I was in better, but my heart changed. Scales fell from my eyes. My posture changed. My mindset changed because now I got the mind of Christ. Now I'm seeing through the Lord's eyes. Now I know Holy Spirit is standing tall inside of me. He's pleased in you suffering. He was pleased when Jesus submitted to being on the cross. You realize Jesus is 100% man and 100% God. He could have taken himself off that cross. He said, I could call down legions of angels. But I'm doing this for my Father. I'm submitting to this for my Father, for his glory, for all of you. We didn't deserve any of that. Your spouse doesn't deserve you sitting on that cross. Your spouse doesn't deserve you being crucified, but you're doing it for the Father. Lord, nevertheless, I'm going to stay up on this cross. I'm going to submit to this. I could get up off this altar right now, God. I could get up off this potter's wheel right now. But I choose to submit to what you have me in. I choose to do what you're expecting me to do. But because I love you, because this is what you're asking of me to do, to help save this lost soul, to help save that lost soul. I wanted to quit. God kept giving me strength. I wanted to throw the towel. God threw it back at me. You just have to submit to what doesn't feel good right now. You have to continue to endure to what you don't like right now. You have to continue to turn the other cheek even when they don't deserve it. You have to continue to rise above even though part of you wants to get petty and get in that pig pen with them and clap back and match energy. You're reflecting Christ. You're the daughter of a king. You're the son of a king. Lord, I want to give up, but something in me won't let me give up. I want to stop praying for them, but something in me won't let me stop praying for them. I want to walk away from this situation, but something in me, I feel like it's saying, be still. Many times that feeling, that thing that you're trying to fight, you can't fight it because the Lord has given you that desire. You got to know if God has called you, if he has given you a marriage promise. There were times I was within myself, I was done. It's like, I don't want to pray about this. I don't want to war about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to fight about it. I don't even want it at this point. Guess what? Go to bed in my feelings and wake up. Guess who still got the desire to pray? Thank you, Holy Spirit. I couldn't not want it. That's how you know when it's God. Even when you try your hardest to put it down. It was like Jeremiah. It was like fire shut up in my bones. I could not want the thing that God was impressing on me. Do y'all realize almost every prophet in the Bible, almost many of them, I'll put it like that, did not want to do what the Lord was requiring them to do. You don't want to stand for that marriage. You don't want to believe that God can turn that man's heart or God can turn that woman's heart. You don't want to do that. But when you are so committed to the Lord, like, Lord, nevertheless, because I love you and because this is what you're requiring of me, I'm doing this for you. Everybody wasn't called to a marriage ministry. Everybody was not anointed for marriage. Everyone is not graced for this assignment. I didn't do any of this within my own strength. Getting to the promised land, receiving restoration, that was all the Holy Spirit. That was me being obedient and submitting to the process. Submitting to sitting in that fire when it was turned up 7 times hotter. Submitting to being in the lion's den when I thought those lions were going to eat me up. Submitting to being in the pit. Submitting, thank you, Holy Spirit, to stand in isolation. Even when the Lord called me to be in my secret place and I wanted to come out of isolation, you got to be obedient where the Lord is calling you to be. Could I have gotten up and gotten a job and went about my life and did whatever I wanted to do? Absolutely. But it wouldn't have been fruitful. It wouldn't have been productive. Thank you, Holy Spirit. It wouldn't have brought the Lord glory because I would have been in disobedience. I would have been out of alignment. You're requiring me to not take a job and to not start my business back that I know I could be fruitful in. But because I love you, I'm going to submit to that. You're requiring me to fight for something that my other half doesn't want to fight for. But because I love you, I'm going to submit to that. You're requiring me to turn the other cheek and let him say what he wants to say, even though I know that's not what you told me. But because I love you, I'm going to submit to that. You see what I'm saying? I just had to learn how to not only be content in that season, but be a good steward in that season. Sometimes God expects you to suffer well. That was me staying in it despite what my flesh felt. Some of y'all are still very fleshly. Very. And I don't say that like to call you out. I say it to say, Lord, teach me how to kill my flesh. Teach me how to die to myself so I can be a good steward, so I can be content in this, so I can receive what it is that you promised me.